Welcome to Lie of the Land, where I find musicians, writers and artists, and we take a wander through the Shetland landscapes that have inspired their work. In this first episode of the season, we go to Aid with musician and teacher Catriona Macdonald. She's one of the best known fiddle players for Shetland, and now teaches music at universities and summer schools, and is researching women's role in traditional music here. I caught her while she was on holiday in Shetland towards the end of the summer.
So we're just walking up to the gorgeous, newly planted, looks like a kirk here in Aid on the west side of Shetland. And this is where I got married about 13 years ago. And there's been many parts of my family that have been married in there, and yeah, it's just a place that means a lot to me. My mum's family are all from this part of the world. My granny Chrissy Hay was part of the big Southgardy Hay family, and I've spent, although I was brought up in Lerwick, I've spent a lot of years coming out here west, and it really feels like the home. And where my heart is a lot of the time, I feel.
I've just caught you at the end of your summer holiday as well, so you're kind of blissed out.
I honestly, that is a good word. Blissed out is absolutely right. I mean, obviously after COVID and things, I had this funny feeling that I needed to go and just be creative and fill myself full of some new things just on my own, which I'm not really usually a my own kind of person. But when I started thinking about where I might go, and I asked, the great Facebook, where should I go for a creative retreat? And I must have had about 5 or 6 folk come on a private message and go, do you really have to ask that question? So basically I just thought, yeah, the west side of Shetland is where it's at. So that's where I've been hanging out mostly since I've been up.
And how was the creativity? Was it flowing? And what are you working on?
So I'm trying to work on a last piece for my PhD. I'm about to finish a PhD that I'm working on. It's been a part-time PhD because I work full-time at Newcastle University. I run the folk music degree course in there. For the last 10 or 12 years I've been running it, but I've been involved in it for 21 years. It's our 21st birthday this year. And so I'm really trying to look at a new piece, and so I actually went off grid out to the little bothy outside Burristow there, and basically had 2 nights sitting in the dark. I'm terrified of the dark, absolutely terrified. So I did have that 11 o'clock when it started to get really dark, having to put the knife over the door, just in the old folklore style, to keep the trowels out. Yeah. And it did work, which was really, really good. But just really full of it all. Beautiful sunsets, beautiful landscape. I know it's all a bit romantic, but I'm not too much of a rose-tinted spectacle kind of person. But I mean, we are just lucky, that we have these places and landscapes to be inspired by. So watch this space on tunes and pieces of music coming out for that.
I think if you're going to be rose-tinted about anything, it could be here and home as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really do think you have to sometimes start the rose-tinted glasses off. I mean, obviously I bide south. I've been biding south since I went away to college at 17, so I could be one of those folk that just, thinks that everything, in another place where I'm not actually biding it is perfection in itself. And I'm a realist, and I can see the wonderful things about being up here, and there are many, and if you're a cultural person, my God, we are so lucky. But I do like to be a realist, we're living in contemporary life here. There's lots of political things and cultural things that are happening up here, exciting things. I feel in the last, 3 or 4 or 5 years here that suddenly this new generation of creative folk are really starting to rise. I mean, there's always been brilliant folk here, obviously, but just a new edge and a little bit more of that. Take the rose-tinted spectacles off. Let's have a pretty look at this in the round. What's good, what's bad? What can we do to, move forward with all our traditions and things? So,
What do you think's driving that energy?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, each generation brings their own kind of voice to it, their own experience, and I don't know, I really feel like looking across the arts, the kind of traditional arts, the music scene, the words, film. There just seems to be a brilliant set of folk that are here at the minute, and I have to say a lot of them are really fantastic women, and they want to collaborate. So I feel there's a bit more of an open kind of interest in each other's practice and things, so it's good.
Does that feel different for when you were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, my own kind of story there is, I was, one of the Shetland Young Heritage from the beginning of 1980s. I wore my Shetland jumper and my woven skirt around the world. And had a great time doing it and things like that. And at that point in time, of course, the island was very much in the preservation mode. I mean, we always go in that cycles, don't we? It's like we're losing everything. We have to preserve, and then you get the very there can be a strictness about that. I feel that we're now in a different position, certainly around the musical thing. I mean, everybody's travelling, meeting all these amazing musicians from around the world, and you can start to hear it. It's seeping in to our own traditions and, adding to what is already one of the most special fiddle traditions that there is out there. So it just feels really vibrant.
So I guess maybe that the preservation era gives you a firm basis, and then you can kind of move on and experiment a bit.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it gives you kind of a bit of a privilege, I think, in the fact that, nobody can tell me I, have no roots. It doesn't go much deeper than kind of almost like the school or the regime, the Anderson regime, maybe we'll say, that I went through. I know all that things, and I know how the tradition has gone, but I'm just excited to see what the next kind of step is going to be. Up here, and I feel it's going in a really, really cool direction. In the shade.
Such a nice tractor.
Oh, you've got tractor
I
envy.
love tractors. Old ones. So we're just going into Michaelswood. Why did you want to come here?
So I really wanted to come here. The house is here to the right of Michaelswood is actually my great aunt, my Auntie Babsie's house, and of course Betty is her daughter. I've been coming to Aid for ever since I was a pretty lass. I used to come and do the tatty picking at the October holidays, and this place is really, of course now it's open and everybody's enjoying it, but I was kind of playing around here before Michaelswood was established. And
fittingly, we just got into the sign. The lovely big sign, the wooden sign that says Michaelswood with a fiddle on it.
Yeah, it is. It's really great. So, obviously Michael is one of my own family, who's a really fantastic fiddle player. And I just find this place, as you walk through it, it is a memorial, of course it is, to Michael's memory and things like that, but what I love about it is that, the sadness and pain has been put into something that is just so positive, and positive for everybody. It's a personal wood in here for me, because there are quite a few of my own family that are memorialised in here, but take that away, it's still just a fab, magic little place, and I can only imagine if you were a pity bairn coming through here, it would be lovely.
Well, it's very lively today. Look.
It is, there's just loads of bairns, which is exactly what should be. One of my favourite spots in there is they have a teddy bears kind of tea party area where the bairns can sit and have tea. And actually that is kind of the spot where my mum and Betty, when they were pretty, they used to spend a lot of time together, and they used to play hoosies there. So I also have my mummy, when we come in here, her and Betty turn into like 5-year-olds, start giggling, and yeah, which is really, really lovely. So no, it's very, very nice place.
Often, we'll go through, often on this, in this series in Lie of the Land, then we're kind of walking across hills and looking at big landscapes, and
yeah,
and this is a different thing. We're going into the woods here. This is the landscape that's inspired you.
Yeah, well, I just feel, I mean, obviously my heart kind of sings in many places in Shetland, and I love those big views. Of course, that's really epic. But I'm also really interested in, you know, family and what that actually means. You know, bide in sooth and obviously know having your urines right next to you. It's a whole different experience when I come home here, and this is one of the places that is just so singing with so many memories for me and my own family, that it's important for me that I keep connecting with that. And yeah, I mean, how lovely that it's as marvellous as space as this, really. And I love what Betty and Ray have done here. I love the fact that there's humour along with the melancholy. I think that a lot of people probably find this place somewhere that you might come if you're not feeling great. You know, it's really restorative. But I love the fact that, you know, Ray punctuates was along the way with a pretty joke or something kind of uplifting, which is really important.
There's one wee sign back there that I love that says, "I started out with nothing and I've still got most of it left."
Yeah, that's it. You know, and he's constantly refreshing that, which is really, really nice. I have a pretty 9-year-old lass, she is now, and she loves coming in here. And just interesting, because to her, she doesn't really understand the significance of why Mummy might take her here all the time. But she's absolutely loves it. It's the first place she's like, "When are we going?" And you can just hear the chatter. Loads of lovely bairns here. I believe there's a boat. The pirate boat is being redone. I think they've had a fantastic donation, and there's lots of work going on making the bairns boat. There's a lot of work that goes in here. I don't know if folk maybe realise that all the time. Obviously,
Well, rarely, yeah.
yeah. Do you kind of what I mean?
In most cases, I think, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a life's work that they're doing here, and it's lovely that Michael's brother Alan is. I believe he's staying on to plant out the top to continue Michaelswood. So up right on the top of the hill there. There's more and more planting. Yeah, and it's kind of moved from the memorial of one person to kind of a place that everybody can come and enjoy, which is great. A squirrels! Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's lovely.
It is.
Yeah.
Aye.
Fantastic. Have a pretty rest. Yeah. So maybe we'll take a pretty walk up. Oh, the burn. Oh gosh, this is all my mummy's stories when they used to just sit in the burn and sit and collect all this kind of pretty frogs and
The Trow Bridge.
yeah, it's just lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really great. But it'd be nice to take a pretty walk up to the top of the hill. There's actually a really, really beautiful spot that is really important to me. My younger brother died quite tragically about 12 years ago. We have a tree up there that quite often I come up and just come and say a pretty high to him up there. So important, I think, to mind those things.
Yeah.
He was a really great individual that maybe made some wrong choices along the way, but he I think it's important, especially in Shetland, you know, looking at mental health and things like that we maybe just take care of each other, ask the hard questions if you think somebody's struggling. And
What was he like, your brother?
he was really, he was complex, of course. That's always the way. He went to the fishing at 16 and absolutely loved it. Just had sea in his bones. And then he moved away from Shetland in the latter part of his life. And yeah, it's kind of interesting to come back, and you'll meet folk that some people maybe didn't get on with them, and then because that's the reality, isn't it? You can't ever sanitise your life when you come to an island. Nope. But then, ever so many folk will come up and say, I was at school with my brother, and we had a brilliant time, or we were really cheeky and we did this, and I really, really loved that. Yeah. But yeah, that kind of message to anybody, be nosy. The old adage, if you feel as though somebody's it can be completely not obvious where folks' heads are, but just, be brave, ask the questions if you can. And, these spaces are fab. I think through COVID we probably all got more of an idea than ever before about why you need, lovely spaces to come to, when you're maybe feeling brilliant.
I think you're saying about folk saying, I mind him at certain points in his life, and I think sometimes folk are scared to say that in case they, I don't want to upset you or remind you or something. Okay. But I love it, and I wish when folk say, and your mum was just such a nice smile, and I mind her doing this stupid thing, and I'm like, that's really nice to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. There is, I don't know what it is about folk. You feel out of respect that you don't want to take that person back to anything, but I just feel
the kind of nervousness which ends up with folk just never mentioning them.
Yeah,
and that's weird.
That is so weird. It really is, And all folk are a mixture of good things, bad things, and but just do keep speaking about it. I really feel that. That person that came up to me, I didn't even ken what she was. The other day, it absolutely made my day. I was just like, wow, that's so great.
The back of the winter is broken, and the light lingers long by the door, and the seeds of the summer have spoken in gowans that bloom on the shore. By night and day we'll sport and we'll play and delight as the dawn dances over the bay. Sleep blows the breath of the morning away, and we follow the heron home. In darkness we cradled our sorrow and stoked all our fires with fear. And now these bones that lie empty and hollow are ready for gladness to cheer. By night and day we'll sport and we'll play and delight as the dawn dances over the bay. Sleep blows the breath of the morning away, and we follow the heron home. So long may you sing of the salmon and the snow-scented sounds of your home, while the north wind delivers its sermon of ice and salt water and stone. By night and day we'll sport and we'll play and delight as the dawn dances over the bay. Sleep blows the breath of the morning away, and we follow the heron home. By night and day we'll sport
So we're coming up to the top of the hill here, so it's funny, you get that lovely wander through the trees, which are, I mean, they're so well established now, you really do feel like you could be in a wood.
Yeah.
And then it comes up here, and of course there's the old whirligig, what do they call that?
Turbine.
Turbine, the pretty turbine on the top of the hill. And you can see even these trees that have been planted fairly recently, they're really, you can start to see they're coming at, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's really nice, and this is up to the top of the hill.
I think in 50 years' time, Shetland will look a pretty bit different and we'll have more trees.
Yeah.
Already that's happening.
Yeah, I think that is happening. And what I've been looking at when I was in Lerwick actually last week was noticing pretty pockets of, 1800 trees. And these tiny pretty, it's like nuggets or jewels in and around Lerwick. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
There'll be just, in between a couple of houses, a pretty wah, and then suddenly a lovely, lovely tree, and you just think, I don't think I ever noticed that when I lived in Lerwick. You just get the old, there's no trees up here.
Well, it used to be the old, there's no trees can grow up here, and some kind of pioneering individuals have shown that to be not true.
Of course, absolutely right. It's nice to see it on the landscape. I mean, if they managed to, if they managed to actually get themselves standing fairly upright, you just think, well, you're probably going to be here for a while. Yeah, I wonder what kind of folk that are into trees think about when they come and they see what these poor specimens are having to cope with to actually survive up here. But it's just very, very nice. Yeah, so this is the place that I was speaking about up here. This is a gorgeous spot for a bit of contemplation. Look back over the Eidvo, down to the Southgerdy, my home seat. And so this was kind of put up here, and this is Eis thy Fracht, the tree. My brother is there. And I think Eis thy Fracht, it's like an old word for lay down your burden. So this is really a a spot that you can just sit and let the wind blow through your hair, and I'm sure it's a lovely day today, but it probably is a bit different in the middle of winter. I've never been actually up here in the middle of winter, but it's a good view, I think.
Especially this time of year, because it's like the patchwork fields, it's all different colours and bright green, and there's girth fields and just mown ones.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a kind of beauty. I often wonder what other folk see. I mean, for me, I have a Canadian husband. He comes from Cape Breton Island, which is another big fiddle place. Actually, I met him there, and when he first came to Shetland, he was so funny. I was, really wanting him to come and just fall in love with Shetland. And of course, we came to the folk festival. He had a great time, partying and whatever. But I might going back on the plane, I was like, "So Dan, what did you think of Shetland?" And he was like, 50 Shades of Brown. That was. Ooh. Yeah, I was like, I'm not sure if this relationship's going to last. Anyway, that was 25 years ago. He's totally changed his mind. I mean, we came and we bed up here in 2017 for 6 months, and I was literally having to drag him back. Yeah. He was just gotten into kayaking and outdoor things, and it kind of felt a bit, I think we all went home to the borders, kind of a bit, desperate to come back. But no, it's its own kind of beauty. Do you feel that, having been away?
Yeah.
Too,
I do, and sometimes it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, you just want to sit and be outside all day, and the computer just drags you back in. Even on a course day, like I love course weather and big sheets of rain and wind, and I love it. Like I want to be out in it.
Oh yeah, me too. I mind, like even when I was a pretty lass, obviously in Lerwick there, I would always go down on those rough days down to the slits there, and just when that ocean is just coming over the top, Mum would be like, "Oh, for God's sake, you're absolutely soaking coming back in." But I mean, for somebody who lives in the town, it was still spectacular. And then of course when you come out to the country here, it's just brilliant. Go up to the big cliffs and just see that big kind of sploosh come off the side of the headland. I mean, you kind of.
What I miss whenever I'm away is scale, and the feeling that you are a very pretty person in a big landscape, and that nature is bigger than you. That's what I love about being here. Yeah. And if you're in a city, you feel like it's very tamed, and you have all these choices to make, and you're, autonomous in a way that I don't like. Whereas here, it's like the weather will remind you that you are not the bigger person. You're not the biggest thing in this landscape. Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right. And I suppose that's when you kind of, I hear a lot of folks speaking about weather. I mean, my mum bides on the borders with me just now, but we constantly speak about weather. It's like, it's just inwards, isn't it? It's like, but it's whether you let the weather define your day, or whether you just go, right, come whatever's going to happen here. And I think when I was biding up here recently, I just got in that kind of why that, if it wasn't going to be good weather, I just embraced every bit of it. And as you say, I mean, sometimes the courses of days is just, it's special, just as nice as a beautiful west side sunset like I had the other night. I think we had all had that.
Well, look, if it was nice all the time, we'd have midges, and that would be terrible. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Pretty scar of wind, doesn't it? It goes a long way. Yeah.
For you, how is landscape and place and nature tied up with creativity and the work that you do?
Yeah,
So walk down as we go,
yeah,
'cause it's
absolutely.
windy.
Yeah, let's do that. It's an interesting one. The kind of landscape thing was no the first thing that I went to when I was composing and things. No, because it doesn't inspire me or anything. That's been a more recent thing, I would say. I think because I'm really interested in historical archive work and kind of social history.
Yeah.
That's the thing that really, and that comes obviously through being a fiddle player and learning tunes that had stories with it and all that kind of thing. So I think a lot of my composition work for my PhD, I've written a piece which is based on a missing archive from Arne Bjørndal, who came here in 1949. So that was all about kind of how we collect folk traditions, what myths are made along the way, all this kind of things. And then I responded to it with a poet. And then the last piece of work I did was in some ways inspired by landscape, actually a place up in Unst in Halligard. I don't know if you ken that place, Jessie Saxby's childhood home up there. And of course that's another wood, another place that's been tended and loved by...
It's kind of fey.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing place. And her own house up there, which is being done up now by one of my heritage pals and things. But again, I always seem to start in the big picture and I always end up getting kind of sidetracked, or I kind of go inwards into folk.
Focused.
Yeah, kind of into the folk and their piri, which would be piri stories. Like I'm really interested in...
But the piri stories tell a big story.
Yes, absolutely. So that's really where I've gone. But I think this next piece that I'm writing, I've just been out there on off-grid on the west side, and there's so much about those big seascapes. I think I'm letting myself do that because I don't know kind of about you, but there has been this very romantic view of islands, do you know what I mean? And a lot of folk, their pieces are all about ocean waves, and and I haven't done a lot of that. But I think sometimes it's okay to engage with that. I feel like I can do it new in an authentic kind of way, maybe to tell a story. Or
I think a lot of it is a lot of it that we see is, I would argue, inauthentic, and that's what makes us go, oh God, not this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Authentic is the word, the important word there, I think.
Yeah. And obviously if you're doing a PhD, you're constantly having to ask the questions of why you're making choices. And that's the archive bit of my PhD, and then I have to switch that voice off. Like, this is me. I'm always fracturing myself into various bits of me. So the nerd will deal with the kind of, the detail. And then creative-wise, then you have to actually allow yourself sometimes to go in those places, but maybe come in with a critical voice to it, So I'm no the person that's going to do lots and lots of, improvising with the waves, or, some folk, that is their authenticity, but for me it's interesting to see how you can use that in a new kind of creative way, I suppose.
Is there any tune or music that you associate with this place in particular?
Well, the West Side I've always gravitated to the repertoire of the West Side players. So like in the mid 20th century, when the Shetland Folk Society started up, folk like Peter Fraser from Was, Finnegert and Was, they had these tunes which to a lot of people's ears and it doesn't seem so strange new because we're obviously listening to a lot of music from other places, but these tunes were always like weird, like really strange, not the usual format structure. They'd lost their kind of connection to dancing and all that kind of thing. But those were the ones that I don't know, I just had this kind of fascination with them. And I think that's kind of translated into my own tunes. Like I find I write tunes that suddenly, they sound like a proper tune and folk can learn them as that, but they will suddenly have like an extra beat here or whatever because the phrase needs that to end it, if you know what I mean. I don't sit there mathematically and maybe that's because I've no been a dance player as such, do you get what I mean? One of my favourite tunes is a tune called the West Side Brides Match. Never seen this.
Is this a new shed?
Yeah, there's a new garden bit.
Tammy and Margaret.
Tammy and Margaret, yeah. Don't know what that is.
What a lovely way to remember folk.
Isn't it lovely? It's just a really, the Soothgardy folk too. It is. It's a really gentle way of doing it. It's no shouting or crying out. That's what I love about it. It's just, we all have folk that we miss in our lives, and you know, I love the fact that you'll have a bench and somebody will maybe just sit down and go, I wonder what that folk was, and then get on with whatever they're doing, have their sandwiches or something like that. You know?
I used to do that in Edinburgh a lot, although because there's so many benches along Princes Street Gardens, and I'd sit and ponder them and just like enjoy the kind of names that they had.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have no idea what their stories is, but just to kind of connect for that one pretty second with their life and think, but you know, not over memorialising, you know, to wear it lightly. And I feel this is what this place is about, really. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Saber-toothed tiger. Got to have one of them chucked in with the middle ones.
There's something like brilliantly incongruous about that.
Isn't it? I love it. It's like you just never know what you're going to get. A really funny poem, a dinosaur, or a nice bench to sit and have a contemplative moment. It's great.
So I think in your work you've been looking at issues about tradition and what makes a tradition and who decides and who gets included in that.
Yes, absolutely. So my PhD that I'm doing is looking at it's Shetland women and it's historical cultural women. So I'm really looking at trying to recover kind of evidence-based research on what women's role was in creating some of the, well, connected with the older traditions, but maybe with the newer traditions. I mean, I'm sure a lot of folk can, but you know, the end of the 19th century was, I mean, it was a time of lots of cultural kind of stories and narratives really being formed. And
about who we are and what we do.
Yeah, who we are and what we do and how we want to celebrate things, you know. And but I think, you know, as we move on, I mean, we have to mind we're new, well, you know, 120, 150 years away from that. You know, maybe some of the origins of how things were at that period in time, which were so important. I mean, I'm just even looking through the records in the archive of, the new tune of, the middle part of Lerwick being established, and the whole kind of Norse namings and the Toon Hall and the rose windows. And I mean, all that documentation is there in the archive to see. And people were passionate about it. Folk are still passionate about it. Ophelia is the classic case, and it's so fantastic. It is something that we have all, and we enjoy, those things that are part of our identity. But I think what's interesting for me is looking. It's just really interesting to see, for us to mind where traditions start. You can start a tradition this weekend, and in 150 years, if folk have really enjoyed it, with everything that we have in contemporary life nowadays, a tradition will start. But then you have to just think what is going to change in 150 years' time is maybe the society around it, That's why I think it's really interesting. I mean, personally, I have to say a big thank you to the Lerwick UHA committee for making the move to allow women to contribute fully to the festival. I have to say, as a female fiddle player, I mean, I was one of the first lasses that played up here, fiddle in the 1980s, and honestly, I love Ophelia, but I've had my fill of sitting watching all my male peers having the honour of playing for, in the Jarl squad, or, and I just think that's always felt hard to me, and I think we have 40 years of the most amazing male and female players up here, and wow, is Ophelia going to now be able to actually fully integrate with. And I went by the galley shed the other day, and usually I go by and I have to say there's a pretty bit of a grumble, like, oh, for God's sake, But I did take a photo in front of it the other day, and I just thought, I actually feel as though I belong more in that story. And I think that's what I'm saying about that kind of inventing tradition. I mean, Ophelia is a 19th century confection. I know that's quite a thought, and that to some people might seem like it's a problematic kind of.
Hello, Jen.
Hi.
Sorry.
Hello. That's okay. Yeah, I would imagine that sometimes speaking about Ophelia can become very emotional, because we all have a lot of emotion invested in it. But I think, it has to be relevant for the time we're living in now. And I really think, having gone in the archives, I mean, I just read a beautiful article written by Christina Jemison, who, I don't know if anybody's kens her, but she was one of the suffragists. Marcely Taylor in her book writes lots about Christina Jemison. She lived in Twagius House in Lerwick, and she was very into folklore, and she did give this fabulous writing about Ophelia, her first response to those first years of when it had taken place in its kind of form it's in now. And it is what it is, but she at that time was a woman that wasn't, maybe she was really doing a lot more than a lot of women were at that time, but you think you have to realise that was the conventions that traditions can start in, and it's like, where do we go with it? We kind of had on it, I believe, and I'm a trad person, trad dyed in the wool person. We can change. It's not going to take anything away from it. It's only going to add to it, and I'm really looking forward. I'm quite excited to see what's going to happen in this next year coming up.
You'll be here in January then.
Well, I'm off into invitation. I'd love that. Nope.
Seems like trad music is an exciting place at the moment. Look, even I love listening to Radio Scotland, listening to Attack the Floor and Travelling Folk and all that. And there's often, like, even in Attack the Floor, sometimes there's some quite innovative, unusual things going on. And you're like, well, things, you know, there's still all the stuff that we love and that we feel nostalgic about and that is the basis of all that. But there's so much, like, experimentation and change, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I would just always say to folk, like when I'm, you know, speaking to real folk that would say they were very much traditionalists, it's like we have to be gentle with each other. I just think in life a bit more being kind and gentle is fine. We don't have to be combative about these things. Sometimes, because I know the preservation mode, Tammy Anderson was a class case of it. My God, he would have, you know, told you to slow down, don't play that tune like that, nobody ever did. You know, I'm like, okay, that was that time. Now we're in a time where I think where tradition is fairly secure. It's always, and I would always say that though, let's never take it for granted. It will go if it's no free in the schools. I'm the product of a single parent family. If I'd had to pay for my fiddle lessons, Catriona Macdonald wouldn't be doing what she's doing now. So, you know, let's never forget that. I think from the security of what's going on in the tradition now, maybe just play around with it. Let's be playful.
I've seen that you're often referred to as the tradition bearer.
Oh gosh.
Because you didn't set out saying, I'm going to be the tradition bearer.
Oh my God, no. I mean, I think it's quite funny because, like, in academia at the minute, that term is so hugely contested. I've never ever connected with that. I don't know where that came from, that idea of, well, I'm very much into looking at language and how much of it is gendered. You know, the fact of being a tradition bearer, I'm not a vessel. I'm not like something that is, you know, and I certainly didn't set myself up. I'm somebody who was lucky enough to have been taught and be around folk of that older generation that are no here anymore. The good sides and the bad sides of it. So I'm quite realistic about that kind of rising of tradition and the formality of teaching fiddle in schools, etc., etc. But I'm no somebody that's in preservation mode. I am definitely somebody that thinks about life new. Isn't it horrible? Biographies are a hideous thing. Somebody writes them and you just think, it's no me that writes them. I can tell you that. Yeah, no, it's a contentious term. I mean, I just think it's somebody who really loves and has a huge respect for the music traditions of the place that I come from, which is here.
You've been listening to Lie of the Land with Jen Stout and guest Catriona Macdonald. The music that introduces Lie of the Land is The Quarf Lasses, written by Joyce Reid. And it's another Filska tune, The West Shore of Quarf, written by Jenna Reid, that plays us out. In this programme you also heard Michael's Mazurka by Michael Ferry, Follow the Heron by Karine Polwart, Tune for A. Leon by Catriona Macdonald, Nordfjord Hallingin performed by Annbjörg Leon, West Side Bride's March performed by Catriona Macdonald, and Tiger in the Galley by Liz Carroll. Well, thanks for joining us. I'll be back over the winter with more special guests for Was the Fair Isle, so tune in. Bye for now. Welcome to Lie of the Land.
The music you picked up for free, we've